Hey guys, Simon here bringing you a new type of series. It's casual deck techs with an emphasis on flavor. A series I'm gonna call the Flavor Pack. Okay, so the name's a work in progress, and so is the idea. Basically, I want to show off some deck concepts based solely on lore and flavor. So if you're looking for stuff that's competitive, you might not always find it here. But if you want to discover new and flavorful ways to play casually, then this may be for you. To help me form these deck ideas, I enlisted the aid of fellow paper champion and YouTube content creator Nizzahons. His channel and mine are both frequently displayed on Paper Champion, an online source for MTG news, deck ideas, and lore. So I started talking to him and we somehow got on the topic of Game of Thrones, a show and series that me and him both enjoy. One thing led to another, and we started discussing constructing decks to represent each of the prominent houses found in the book and television series. Now, while this video series will eventually focus on flavored decks strictly following the lore of MTG, these first few videos will be themed after my other fandom, Game of Thrones. Me and Nizzahons will do our best to craft a 60 card deck for each of the houses prominent in the series. If you'd like, you can take these deck ideas and try them out with your friends at your own Game of Thrones viewing parties. Maybe the fate of the Seven Kingdoms rests in a simple hand of Magic the Gathering. In any case, let's start this series off with a deck dedicated to the Wardens of the West, the wealthy, ferocious, and sometimes incestuous House Lannister. With the Lannisters' gold reflected in their vaults as well as their hair, I feel the most relevant color to base this house from is white. Although they don't often live up to the values of white mana, this is Game of Thrones we're talking about, so of course there'll be some gray area. We also splashed in some green to represent their alliance with House Tyrell. First, let's look at the creatures that make up House Lannister. We focused on House Lannister's military might, synergizing soldiers and other warriors. Let's just get this out of the way right now. The sigil of House Lannister is a lion, so of course, you'd have to expect lions to make an appearance in this deck. The sigil is represented by a set of Ajani's Pridemate, 2/2 cat soldiers for 1 generic and a single white mana. Whenever you gain life, you may put a 1/1 counter on Ajani's Pridemate. Of course, there are other major players tied to this house as well, such as the rebellious and brilliant, not-so-favorite son Tyrion Lannister. Often referred to as the Imp for his stature due to dwarfism, Tyrion is no less learned or courageous. His role in this deck will be represented by 3 copies of Gaddock Teeg. This 2/2 legendary creature for 1 white and 1 green serves to represent Tyrion Lannister well, as it's a Kithkin advisor. Much like the character, Gaddock Teeg isn't a soldier, some of the few non-soldier cards in this deck, but his brilliance serves the realm in better ways. Non-creature cards with converted mana cost 4 or greater can't be played, and non-creature spells with X in their mana cost can't be played. It's a strong card and hates on a lot of other decks out there, bringing honor to his house despite the lack of acknowledgement. We also have the Queen Regent, the often despised and notable true ruler of King's Landing, Cersei Lannister. She'll be represented in this deck by a copy of Masako the Humorless, a fitting card for a character of Cersei's temperament. I'll be honest, this was the hardest of the Lannisters to find a card for. The problem is there isn't really a creature type in Magic that embodies what Cersei is, especially in this color pairing. However, we think the name of the card embodies Cersei's general seriousness and lack of humor, especially the way things have been going recently. Masako, like Cersei, is in a high position within society and married to a lord, Conda, Lord Eiganjo. Also, the flavor text fits Cersei pretty well. For the deck itself, she can be a good surprise card when your opponent thinks he or she has you beaten. Being able to attack and then chump block with your little guys even though they're tapped seems pretty good. Next, we have the Golden Son of House Lannister, both in prestige and in his physical hand, Jaime Lannister, commander of the Kingsguard, and close brother to Cersei. He's represented in this deck by a set of Captain of the Watch. This 3/3 human soldier for 4 generic and double white sets to buff the other soldiers you have in play, having vigilance itself, while also giving its fellow soldiers +1/+1 and vigilance. When Captain of the Watch enters the battlefield, put 3 1/1 soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. Of course, with this card, you're actually getting 2/2 soldiers with vigilance. This card was a pretty easy pick for us. Although the art doesn't show what we'd think Jaime Lannister would look like, it does represent the captain of the Kingsguard and works really well with other soldiers. Moving on, we have the head, or well, former head of House Lannister, its Lord and ruler of Casterly Rock, Tywin Lannister. As Lord and father of the above-mentioned cards, it requires a strong man and card to rule over the wealthiest house of the Seven Kingdoms. His strength and order is represented in this deck by 2 copies of Odric, Master Tactician. This 3/4 legendary human soldier for 2 generic and double white serves to show off the strategic prowess of this Warden of the West. Because, after all, you don't get to be the ruler of a great house by acting foolishly. This card has first strike, and whenever Odric Master Tactician and at least 3 other creatures attack, you choose which creatures block this combat and how those creatures block, proving that while fighting with strength is necessary, so does fighting intelligently. The Westerlands may be led by House Lannister, but their strength comes from the unity of other houses who swore them fealty, one of which being House Clegane, because every lord needs a beast from time to time. The Cleganes are known for their brutality and prowess in combat. Taking the sigil of 3 hounds, no house is more utilized by their lord than the Cleganes. Keeping with the theme of power and unity, we add a set of Rhox Pikemasters. These are 3/3 Rhino soldiers for 2 generic and double white. They have first strike, but also give other soldier creatures you control first strike, giving you and all your forces an added benefit. This huge creature helps all soldiers, and I think it's about as close as one can get to Gregor the Mountain Clegane in a soldier deck. With the major players of House Lannister taken care of, we move to those lesser lords who still serve the Golden Lions of Lannister faithfully. To represent some of the other, more influential bannermen of the Lannister forces, we added 3 copies of Daru Warchief. This 1/1 soldier for 2 generic and double white puts in work for his lords, making all your other soldier spells cost 1 less to play, while also giving soldiers you control +1/+2. Since it doesn't specify giving other soldiers this buff, it also buffs itself. So think of it as more of a 2/3 with all these benefits rather than just a 1/1. They say Casterly Rock, the ancestral home of the Lannisters, sits atop the greatest gold and silver mine in all the Seven Kingdoms. As a result, House Lannister has access to some of the greatest smiths known to the world. Their benefit to the Lannisters and this deck is represented by sets of Veteran Armorsmith and Veteran Swordsmith. The Armorsmith is a 2/3 human soldier for double white that gives your other soldiers +0/+1. While the Swordsmith is a 3/2 human soldier for 2 generic and a single white, giving your other soldiers +1/+0, lending their skills to better the whole of House Lannister. And finally, we have those generals and commanders who are leading the forces of the Lannisters' army. They are represented in this deck by a set of Field Marshals. Again, creatures set to provide benefits to your other soldiers. It's a 2/2 white human soldier for 1 generic and double white, giving all soldiers +1/+1 and first strike. And that rounds out the creatures in this House Lannister deck. Now let's move on to some other cards set to complement them in both aesthetic and theme. First, we have 2 copies of Sword of Ice and Fire. Pretty easy to see why we chose this card, seeing the book series is titled A Song of Ice and Fire. This artifact equipment for 3 generic has an equip cost of 2, and gives the creature +2/+2 and protection from red and blue. Whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, Sword of Ice and Fire deals 2 damage to target creature or player, and you draw a card. This artifact is meant to represent not only the series title, but also the Valyrian swords currently in House Lannister's possession. In this deck, Sword of Ice and Fire is just an absurdly good card. Next, we have 4 copies of Unified Strike. This instant for 1 white mana removes target attacking creature from the game if its power is less than or equal to the number of soldiers in play. This deck really needed some kind of removal, and while we could have jammed Path of Exiles in here, it just didn't fit the theme, and we're all about trying to go for the flavor here. Nevertheless, it fits with the Lannisters' theme of strength through unity, while also complementing the focus of soldiers in this deck. And finally, we conclude our House Lannister deck with 1 copy of Reward the Faithful. This instant for a single white mana grants any number of target players life equal to the highest converted mana cost among permanents you control. Honestly, this card's just here for flavor reasons. Sure, the life gain is nice, and it adds a benefit to your Ajani Pridemates, but it's certainly not a must-have. Where this card really shines is in any type of multiplayer game, which I kinda envision this and the following other Game of Thrones decks being played. You can use this card to give life back to a player who helped you out at one point, reminding all that the Lannisters always repay their debts. At the end here, let's run down the lands for the Lannister deck. We have one Rishadan Port, meant to represent the port town of Lannisport, located at the base of Lannister's home of Casterly Rock. It can also be used to lock opponents off of a color or mana in the late game, always a nice addition. A copy of Eiganjo Castle, meant to represent the Lannisters' current holding of King's Landing, the capital of all the 7 kingdoms. It also happens to be the home of Masako. And we'll wrap it all up with 4 Savannahs, 4 Windswept Heaths, 4 Sunpetal Groves, and 7 Plains, giving you all the mana fixins for a great and fun House Lannister deck. And there you have it, guys! A deck fit for House Lannister. I want to know what you guys think of our Lannister-themed Game of Thrones deck. Let us know your suggestions for this house and others in the comments below. Remember, this isn't meant to be a well-rounded, viable deck, just one that's playable for casual fun in preparations for the season premiere of Game of Thrones. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, consider liking it and subbing to the channel. It goes a long way in supporting future content. You can also support this channel by becoming a patron on Patreon and following me on other social media outlets. Find links to those in the description below. If you like my stuff, then I suggest going over to Nizzahons' channel and giving his stuff a try. He has some really fun videos to watch, especially if you enjoy MTGO gameplay. Find a link to his channel in the description below. As always guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.